Hey everyone, Will here from GoToMarketGuru.com. Welcome to Lecture 2 of the Breaking into Software Sales mini lecture series. In this particular episode, we're going to talk about the resume. How do you build a stellar resume? How do you structure it? How do you add content? And what does the process look like once you submit it into that black void to employers? We'll cover everything you need to know. If you enjoy it, please like and subscribe. Check out more content as I post it, as well as my website. Go to marketguru.com for my professional software sales course where I talk about the full sales management cycle, something you'll want to have if you plan on going into the business. Bye for now.
So now we're going to dive into the second component of the toolbox, the resume. And we're going to begin by going over some quick facts and painting a perspective on what the application process looks like from the employer's perspective, and it's going to be super helpful. I want you to imagine it as a funnel with multiple tiers of filters that basically boil down from the general application to the interviews, the final interview, and eventually reaching this bottom point here where you're given an acceptance letter and offered the position. So starting from the top, every position on average receives around 250 resume submissions. That's quite significant, eh? 250 resumes. And then from there are a variety of filters that are applied. The first filter, a pretty dangerous one, is the automated filter. This is basically a software that a lot of organizations employ that goes through keywords and resumes looking for experience and education and skill set and cutting out the majority of applicants who it deems to be unfit. And around 80% are cut. This is kind of it could be 70, it could be 60, but 80% is a fairly accurate representation. So from 250 resumes, we go down to 50 candidates left. Quite significant because at this point, they've never met you or seen you or heard of you. Just paper. Next is going to be a human filter, so slightly more granular. An individual working in the firm, whether in HR or on the team you're applying to, is going to go through 50 resumes and skim them. Most of them just skim, and they're going to cut about half of them, okay? And so there'll be about 25 candidates left after this is carried out, upon which phone interview will be offered to these 25 candidates where they'll get to talk about their skills, their background, their motivation, and so forth, at which point 80% are going to be cut, leaving 5 candidates left who will have an in-person interview, and 80% will be cut until one offer is given with a 90% acceptance rate. The general point of this is it's a funnel, and it all starts with the resume. And those resumes go through 2 filters, a robot filter and a human filter. And the goal of this segment of the lecture is to basically optimize your resume so it passes the automated filter and passes the human filter, because before that, they never even get to hear your voice. And there's only 25 candidates that make it to this stage, and I want you to be one of them, okay? The top 10%. And to add a little bit more light, what I mean by the robot, automated filter, it's called ATS, an applicant tracking system, and it's used widely. Around 98% of major Fortune 500 firms use it. Around 2/3 of large firms, with a few thousand employees use it, and a large minority of small firms use it. So it's incredibly important to get your resume right and have it optimized to it. As far as humans go, they spend around 10 seconds skimming through resume. It could be 5 seconds. It could be a minute. On average, it's around 10 seconds. They're just looking at your school, your experience, and maybe some extracurriculars. And then the top reasons for discarding a resume, the top are, kind of obvious: experience, skills, education. But then there's, cultural fit, which is somewhat, subjective, and use of keywords in the resume, you can overcome that. And then formatting, grammar, email usage, and unprofessional social media. These are things we can control super easily that will improve your chances, and we'll show you exactly how you can do that. Before we dive in now, I want to talk about some, kind of on a comic relief note, what a resume should and shouldn't look like. And we'll do that by going through 3 batches, starting with the first batch, Are You For Real? Now, I don't expect these resumes to be a representation or characteristic of what you have, and, I don't even know if these are real, but I thought they were pretty funny, and I wanted to include them because they just make it very clear what a bad resume looks like. We'll start with Lita Lewis. Her resume, you can kind of judge off the bat, this is pretty silly, but just take a moment, literally, and just look at it and play with me here, and let's be serious. What's wrong with it? Okay, not to spend too much time on it now, but what are some things you came up with? Probably the fact that there's color, probably the fact that there's no structure, there's no margins, there's poor formatting, there's symbols and so forth. There was a picture I had to black out, but pretty silly to say the least, right? This one's, equally as silly, if not more. This is Joseph, my little resume. Again, comic relief here. But you can see the point I want to make here is Joseph has a 3.74 GPA with a double major in computer science and mathematics. He has a lot of skills, Python and so forth, machine learning. He should be getting jobs, but with this, he'll never see the light of day. He'll be, reduced to his mother's basement for the rest of his life. Same with Andre's most awesome resume. Maybe there's some good content, but, the point is, don't have color, don't have images, have a clear structure. This isn't where to go. Batch 2 is slightly closer to reality. It looks good from afar, but upon closer inspection, Eric only included one name here. He has an objective, personal attributes, experience. He has some margins, some structure. It's black and white, no picture. That's good. But, his cat-like reflexes and his willingness to claw his way to the top using any means necessary aren't helping him out. So again, the point of this is some more structure is good, but be careful and don't include humor, and make sure it's very professional. Rusty Rose, slightly more professional, includes dates. That's good. But again, there's some attitude in here. I'm the best in the world at. I'm not going to say this for this course, but, you can read right here. They're not taking themselves very seriously. And then lastly, now we have more structure, more date ranges, but marijuana dealer, nefarious dude, be careful what you include on your resume. Always be thinking, would I hire me? Look at your resume from a third-party perspective. And that brings us to the serious one, batch 3, you're hired. This is an example of a fantastic resume. So you can see here, great margins, everything's organized. There is a category and a subcategory for everything. At the very top, we have first and last name, address, information. Then we have block categories of education, experience, leadership, skills, interests, activities, extracurriculars. And then everything has a place. So Tufts University, GPA, indentation. For the experience, there's the company itself, the department, there's the location and date, everything organized along the right-hand column. And then there's the title of the position and bullet points that are well structured. And they do that for everything. So this is what your resume needs to look like. If it doesn't look like this, then thank goodness you're taking this course, because we're going to show you how. We're going to start by going over a few different things. First, the structure and format, the content and quality, and then we'll talk about skills and customization. As far as the structure and format are concerned, if we look back at the archetype resume, it had a full name, it had contact information at the top, and then it had 3 main headings: education, work experience, skills and information. Education had dates, institution and degree, location; work experience, dates, employer description, location, and so forth. Everything was simple, clean, and concise. Appropriate margins were used. A professional font such as Times New Roman was used. It was error-free. Have a look through it. There are no errors. It's very important to triple check your work, especially when it determines your job. 1-page limit, as a university graduate, you can keep it to 1 page easily. Have a professional email. Don't use Hotmail or silly mail. Have a Gmail or an Outlook, and then obviously don't use a photo. So now let's dive into content and quality. I've shown you the structure, but how do you actually build bullet points to make yourself sound professional? That's the point of this slide. We're going to leverage something called the ATM framework. So ATM stands for action, task, and metric. ATM. You want to have, I'd say, 3 to 4 bullet points per position. If it's something in the past and it was small, maybe go down to 2, but no, don't go any lower than that, and don't go any higher than 4. And you want to make them, the bullet points, worthwhile. So let's look at them. You're going to have your experience at the top, and then you're going to have your title of the division and the title of the position. You'll want to have the location and the date on the right-hand corner. And then as far as structuring the bullet point, let's use the ATM framework. It's going to be color-coded to make it easy. So we're going to start with the action verb, analyzed. Then we're going to go to the task or project. In this case, $250,000 of monthly marketing spend data to optimize audience and determine attribution. And then we're going to include a metric or result in green, increasing conversion by 8% month over month and decrease cost per acquisition by 48%. So, action, analyzed, task, monthly marketing spend data, metric or result, increasing conversion by 8% and customer acquisition by 48%. Let's do another example. Action verb, launched and supervised. Task, a summer citywide door-to-door sales initiative. Metric or result, that generated 450 qualified leads, representing a 45% increase on prior summer's performance. ATM, action, task, metric, make it simple, clear, and concise. And as far as some best practices to focus on, be more specific as opposed to general. Show more numbers than words if possible. Speak to your outcomes. What did you actually accomplish as opposed to, just responsibilities, and be more specialized than basic. Dive into detail. Show them that you know what you're talking about. So when they bring it up in the interview, you'll be able to speak to it and come off as knowledgeable and professional. And with that, now we're going to go through some more examples, except this time it won't be color-coded. I want you to kind of figure it out. So again, ATM, we're going to go over some examples here. Action, task, metric. Have a read through this one. Okay, so this is an example of leadership. We have hired, coached, and led a sales team of 5 to make calls, client visits, and close deals, generating $10 million in sales contracts. As you can probably guess, action verb, hired, coached, and led. Project, a sales team of 5 to make calls, client visits, and close deals. Metric or result, generating 10 million in sales contracts. The M actually means thousands, so my mistake. Generating 10,000s, a double M would mean millions. What about this one for business development? Have a read through here. Okay, action verb, generated. 50 plus project requests. Okay, in this case, that sounds like a metric. It seems like they went in a different order. That's okay too. And then task or project with 10 clients through cold calls and email outreach. So in this case, it was action, metric, task. You can mix it up as long as it flows. What about this one? Teamwork. Let's jump in. Collaborated, action verb, with 10 plus developers and project managers to assess project outcomes and prioritize future app features. Okay, that sounds like a project to me. Launched 12 new customer features in 5 months. Sounds like a metric or result. And then lastly, negotiation. We'll do this one together. Negotiated new contracts with existing technology suppliers, resulting in annual saving of over $42,000. Action, task, result. Pretty clear structure. Now we'll move on to skills and customization. Okay, on to skills and customization. So once you have the structure, once you have the content, what are the key words that this resume filter is going to be looking for, and how do you get them? The answer is the job description. So every job you apply to is going to have a job description, and there's a few components to that. There's the title of the job, let's say account executive. Purpose, manage a sales cycle. Okay. Duties and responsibilities, meet with clients, lead generation, cold calling, and the like. Minimum qualifications, what they want, a bachelor's degree or, college, maybe they want 1 year of selling experience or they just say new grads available. Preferred qualifications, and then working conditions, maybe travel 1 to 2 days a week, remote and in office, blend, what have you. There's going to be a format that every job description has. It may not be exactly like this, but it's going to be something like this. And that's where you take your keywords from. So in this case, this course is about becoming an account, or the next course is about becoming an account executive. So we want to take keywords relating to being an account executive. So step 1, read the company website and full job description. Step 2, identify and write down the specific skills and experience the company is seeking. Step 3, add the exact skills and language into your resume. And finally, step 4, rinse and repeat. Now, I would recommend that you have, for your entire application process, Obviously, at a minimum, 1 resume, maximum 3. Have a few different ones depending on the industry and the position that you're applying for, so you can customize and optimize your chances of being successful. In the next slide, we're going to give you some sample keywords. So going on with skills and customization, I've gathered a list of some keywords that would be, prudent to include in your resume if you're applying for these positions. The first one is for SDR, sales development roles. So some keywords are new business development, lead generation, qualification, outbound calling, cold calling, communication, teamwork, inside sales, and the like. There are more. This is not exclusive or exhaustive, but these are some of the key ones. Another one for the AE position. So account executive, closing experience, direct sales, solution selling, software as a service. Remember that one from the free lecture? B2B, hunting, outside sales, sourcing, something to be covered in the Go-to-Market Bootcamp, negotiation, also to be covered, ambition, quota. These are all important words. There are more, but these are some key ones. Regional sales manager position, likely if you're taking this course, you'll start off as an AE or an SDR, but as far as what a regional sales manager would look like, sales management, CRM, customer relationship management. We'll talk about this in the bootcamp course. Sales strategies, forecasting, relationship building, trade shows, channel management, also covered in the bootcamp course, team leadership, negotiation, and the like. And then lastly, CSM, Customer Success Manager. This is a role that you can apply to right away or generally pivot from an AE or an RSM. They basically do post-sales account management. And they're concerned with cross-selling, upselling, customer retention, SaaS, consulting, problem solving, churn management, something that's very important. Churn means losing a client. That's their job, is to prevent that. And reporting and so forth. So these are some key words that are super important. I mentioned that having a resume is obviously extremely important, but also having a LinkedIn is super important. You can't go without it. And believe me, this may sound silly to some people taking this course, but I never had LinkedIn. I didn't get it until a year after I graduated, and it transformed my application experience because I basically wasn't finding anything. And with LinkedIn, I started to become in contact with tons of recruiters, and I was able to message a lot of different people and get kind of ad hoc phone interviews. LinkedIn is an online resume, and there are different sections, a profile photo, an about section, professional experience, education, licenses and certifications, skills, any recommendations you can get, honors and awards, test scores and languages. Be sure to have them all filled out to the best of your ability. Spend a week making your LinkedIn the best it can possibly be. It will help you so much, I guarantee it. And with this, we're going to wrap up the resume section of this course lecture, and we're going to move on to talking about the cover letter, the final section. Super important, but also super simple.